Hello, everyone. Today we will explore a meaningful story called The Miraculous String of Knots. This is not only an interesting story, but also a profound lesson about impermanence, one of the core teachings of Buddhism. Through the journey of a princess and her dream of stringing together drops of water, the story will lead us to reflect on the ephemeral nature of all things. It will help us realize that everything in life is constantly changing, and this awareness will awaken our wisdom, helping us to live a more meaningful and peaceful life. Let's listen and contemplate this valuable lesson, wishing you and your friends relaxing and meaningful moments. Miraculous Strings, Lessons on Impermanence. Awaken everyone's wisdom. Dawn gradually broke, the mist lifted like a thin veil. The brilliant sun appeared from behind the thin clouds, casting its glorious light down to the earth, as if whispering to welcome a new day full of promise. Under the cool shade of the poplar trees, the soft branches and leaves gently leaned over to reflect on the small stream, creating a peaceful scene that touched the heart. However, even though she was surrounded by such wonderful beauty, the princess still could not feel happy. Her eyes were still lost in thought. Her mind seemed to be wandering somewhere, dreaming of something different, far away from what she had before her eyes. As the golden sunlight gradually spread, covering the palace in a warm color, the scenery in the royal garden seemed to awaken, swaying in the morning breeze. Suddenly, the princess's eyes focused on a magical scene. From the blue-tiled roof of the palace, the remaining raindrops were falling, forming round water shadows, rolling along the pure white marble grooves. Under the sunlight, the water suddenly sparkled in a myriad of colors, as if covered in a magical light. The colors changed, sometimes as green as jade, sometimes as red as ruby, sometimes as clear as diamonds. The princess's eyes lit up, a beautiful smile spread across her lips. She thought to herself, "Oh, how beautiful those pearls are! I have seen many jewels, but never have I seen such precious and wonderful pearls as these." In her young mind, the princess began to dream. If only I could own a necklace made from those beautiful pearls, to wear around my neck, how wonderful it would be. That thought seemed to hypnotize her, making the princess forget everything around her. She sat there, her eyes fixed on the sparkling tears, her soul wandering in a dream world where she was the owner of those magical pearls. Time passed, the sun gradually rose higher, its rays becoming more intense, dispelling the humidity of the morning. The last drops of water fell from the roof tiles, disappearing into the grooves of the marble. The imaginary shapes of those pearls also disappeared, but in the princess's mind, the image of them was still there, more vivid and alluring than ever. Somewhere, the chirping of birds echoed, like a melodious song embellishing the beautiful scenery of the royal garden. But to the princess, that sound seemed very far away. She still sat there, her eyes dreamy, her soul seemed to be wandering somewhere, in a world of her own, where those magical gems still existed. Suddenly, a gentle voice rang out, pulling the princess back to reality. A palace maid came to her side and respectfully said, "Your Highness, your mother is calling for you." As if waking up from a dream, the princess slowly stood up, without saying a word, heavily walked back to her room and lay down on the bed, her mind still filled with the image of those magical gems. The palace maid, not understanding what was happening, rushed inside to report the news. Soon after, the queen, with a worried look on her face, entered her daughter's room. She saw that the princess's innocent face now looked tired and sad. Thinking that her daughter might have fallen ill, the queen gently asked her. As an only child, always pampered, the princess saw this as an opportunity to act spoiled with her mother. Even though she knew the queen was there, she lay still, facing inward, not saying a word. This made the queen even more worried. She quickly sent someone to inform the king. Hearing that something was wrong with his daughter, the king immediately went to visit her. But no matter how much the king and queen tried to coax and advise her, the princess remained silent. Only later, when she could no longer bear the pressure of her parents' worries, did she open up, telling them about the magical gems she had seen and expressing her desire to possess them. After hearing the story, the king could not help but laugh. He gently explained, "My dear child, the pearls you mentioned are just bubbles of water. They are not real. How can they be woven into a rosary? But do not be sad. In my treasury there are many kinds of precious pearls. You can choose as you like." Having said that, the king ordered someone to bring the most precious pearls in the royal treasury. But no matter how many precious gems she saw, the princess was still not satisfied. In her mind, nothing could compare to the magical beauty of those sparkling water bubbles. She insisted on having the gems she saw, refusing to compromise with anything else. Her wish was not fulfilled, and the longing for those imaginary pearls continued to haunt the princess. She gradually became depressed, no longer interested in the delicious food and fun she had loved before. With each passing day, the princess's condition became worse. The king and queen were extremely worried, fearing that this longing would gradually wear down their beloved child's health. During a court session, the king asked his officials for advice on how to cure the princess. But they were all silent. No one knew what to do. He then summoned the most talented jade craftsmen to the palace, asking if anyone could create a type of jade that looked like those sparkling water bubbles. But they all shook their heads, saying that it was impossible. Finally, the king had to issue an edict throughout the country. Whoever could cure the princess would be rewarded with 1,000 gold coins. But day after day, no one came to help. Because of his love for his daughter, the kind father could not rest easy, always showing worry and sadness. Then one early morning, when the dew was still on the leaves, an old Zen master asked to see the king. After performing the ceremony, he said, "Your Majesty, I think the princess's illness is not a physical illness, but a mental illness. There is no medicine that can cure it. If I want the princess to recover, I must find a way to fulfill her wish. However, this is not easy, because water bubbles cannot form a string of beads. But please do not worry, Your Majesty. I have a way to help the princess recover." Hearing these words, the king felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders, his heart filled with joy and hope. He hurried to his daughter's room and lovingly said, "My dear, today, an old Zen master has promised to string that string of pearls for you. Now do not be sad anymore." Those words seemed to have magic, making the princess's pale, haggard face suddenly bright and rosy like a lotus flower by the lake. The next morning, the old monk came to the palace and asked to see the princess. He said gently, "Princess, I heard that you wanted a string of pearls made from water bubbles. Today, I will help you find something even more precious." The Zen master led the princess to the royal garden where she had seen the illusory pearls. He pointed to the dewdrops sparkling in the early morning sunlight and said, "Princess, look closely. Aren't these dewdrops as beautiful as the pearls you have seen?" The princess nodded, her eyes shining with joy. The Zen master continued, "But can you keep them forever?" As the sun rose, the dewdrops gradually disappeared. The princess shook her head, her face sad. The Zen master gently said, "The Buddha taught that all conditioned things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows. That means everything in this world is like a dream, existing but not really existing, like a magic trick, seen as such but not really so, like a bubble floating on the surface of the water, there and then gone, like an image in a mirror, seen but untouchable, ungraspable." He continued to explain, "The pearls that the princess longed for are like these dewdrops. They are beautiful, but impermanent. If we try to grasp them, they will vanish like smoke. Instead of longing for ephemeral things, we should seek eternal values such as compassion, wisdom, and inner peace." The princess listened and gradually understood. She looked around the royal garden with new eyes. The flowers, the trees, and even the lingering dewdrops, all were beautiful in their own way, but also impermanent. She smiled, feeling as if a burden had been lifted from her soul. "Thank you, Master," said the princess, her voice filled with emotion. "I have come to understand that true happiness lies not in illusory jewels, but in one's own soul." From that day on, the princess no longer yearned for magical pearls. Instead, she began to study the Buddha's teachings and practice meditation. Gradually, she found a joy and peace that was far deeper than any pearl could bring. The story of the princess and the pearls of illusion is not only a beautiful story, but also contains profound lessons about Buddhism. Let's explore together 3 important lessons that we can learn from this story. Lesson 1. The lesson of impermanence. The first and most important lesson that the story conveys is the impermanence of all things. The pearls that the princess desires are symbols of desires and cravings in life. We are often attracted by the superficial beauty of things and phenomena and forget their true nature. The Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. Like dewdrops sparkling in the sun, they have a radiant beauty but quickly disappear. This reminds us not to cling too much to the ephemeral, temporary things in life. Instead, we should focus on cultivating lasting spiritual values such as compassion, wisdom, and inner peace. These are the real gems that we should seek and preserve. Second is, lesson on attachment and letting go. The second lesson the story teaches is about attachment and the importance of letting go. The princess was so attached to the idea of the illusory pearls that it negatively affected her health and spirit. This reflects how attachment can cause suffering in our lives. The Buddha taught that attachment is the source of suffering. When we cling too tightly to something, whether material or spiritual, we create dependencies and expectations. When these expectations are not met, we feel disappointed and miserable. Through the Zen master's teachings, the princess learned to let go. She realized that true happiness does not lie in the illusory gems outside, but in her own soul. This is a valuable lesson in letting go, helping us to escape unnecessary constraints and find inner freedom. And the third is lessons on wisdom and awareness. The third lesson of the story is about the importance of wisdom and awareness. When the Zen master helped the princess see things from a new perspective, she was able to overcome her delusions. This is the process of developing wisdom in Buddhism. Wisdom in Buddhism is not mere knowledge, but the ability to see the true nature of things and phenomena. The princess developed wisdom when she was able to see the impermanence of dewdrops and understood the profound lesson from it. Mindfulness also plays an important role in the story. As the princess begins to look around the garden with new eyes, she is practicing mindfulness, being clearly aware of present reality without judgment. This allows her to see the beauty in everything around her, no matter how impermanent it may seem. The story of the princess and the pearls of illusion is not just a fairy tale, but also a profound lesson in Buddhism. It reminds us of the impermanence of all things, the importance of letting go, and the value of wisdom and awareness. In our daily lives, we often get caught up in our own illusory pearls, be it money, fame, or relationships. This story advises us to stop, look at things more deeply, and seek true happiness from within our souls. Remember, like the princess in the story, we all have the ability to transcend illusions and find inner peace. By practicing the Buddha's teachings, realizing impermanence, learning to let go, and developing wisdom, we can gradually transform our lives, moving toward a state of true peace and freedom. Finally, let this story be a reminder that true happiness lies not in external things, but within ourselves. By cultivating lasting spiritual values, we can find a joy and peace that is much deeper than what any material gem can bring. Dear ladies and gentlemen, you have just listened to a video from the Buddhist Folktales collection, which is broadcast at 7 p.m. every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on the YouTube channel Buddhist Story, Master You. We sincerely thank you for watching. To not miss the upcoming episodes, please remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you find the content useful, please share this video with your family and friends. Your feedback is very valuable to us. Please leave a comment below the video so we can discuss and share together. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namo Sakyamuni Buddha.